Hi there! Welcome to another Muscoot Farm video. Today we're making farmhouse dinner rolls, one of our favorite recipes to make here at the farm, and it's pretty easy and it's also pretty fun to make because you get to be a little messy. So I'll start with the ingredients. We're going to need some warm water, a sweetener such as sugar, maple syrup, or honey, salt, vegetable oil, and flour. Oh, and yeast. Active dry yeast. All right, so we're going to start by preheating the oven to 375. Okay, and you're also going to need some baking sheets, and we like to use parchment paper on them, but it's not totally necessary if you don't have parchment paper. Just a regular cookie sheet will be fine. Okay, so we're going to start by activating our yeast. So yeast is a very tiny organism that likes to eat sugar, and then it releases carbon dioxide, and that's basically air, which will make your bread fluffy. So we're adding 1 3/4 cups of warm water. And it's important that it's warm so that it wakes up the yeast, but it's not too hot that it kills the yeast. Okay? Then we're going to add our, you know what, before we do the yeast, let's do our sweetener. We're using maple syrup here at the farm. Going to do 2 to 3 tablespoons, depending on how much of a sweet tooth you have. I'll do 2. These are for dinner after all, not dessert. But you can do whatever you like. I'm just gonna give that a little swirl. And everything's gonna happen in this large bowl, so we just need that. And we do 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. And now we're actually just going to not do anything. We just let it sit for about 5 minutes while the yeast starts to wake up and starts to eat the sugar, the maple syrup that we put in there. And we'll come back in 5 minutes. So now that we've waited about 5 minutes, you can actually start to smell the work that the yeast is doing. It kind of smells like a bread factory. It's really interesting. Some people don't like the smell, that's okay. But next we will stir in a handful of flour. So yes, you can just use your hand. Then we will stir that around. Then we're going to add the salt, which is how much? 1 teaspoon of salt. And a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Okay. Now the next part, as soon as this is all mixed together, is that we're going to add the rest of the flour. We're going to do it 1 cup at a time. So depending on your dough, if it's a little dry, you'll use less flour. If it's still wet, you're going to add a little more flour. Or I should say, not wet, but if it's too sticky, you'll see what I mean. So we're going to start by doing 1 cup at a time until we've done about 4 to 5 cups. 1. So it's still pretty liquidy. 2. You can use a regular wooden spoon for this part if you want. I just like that this spatula is really big, so that's why I'm using it. Okay. Cup number 3. So it's best to add 1 cup at a time because then you can kind of check the consistency as you go. Okay. So as you can see, it's coming together into one kind of piece of dough. So this, I think, this is cup number 4. We might not use it all. So I'm going to start with a little bit. And at this point, you can start mixing the dough with your hands. You want to be able to bring it together into one ball of dough. So as you can see, it's sticking to my hands a little bit, but it's not too bad. And what I'm doing here also is kneading the dough. So I'm using this part of my hand here and doing it right in the bowl so I'm not making a mess all over the table. And I'm going to just keep doing this until the dough is not so sticky anymore. So right now, as I knead it, it's getting stuck to my hand a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and add more flour so that eventually this becomes a ball that's easy to handle without getting stuck on your hands. The trick is to, though, make it just dry enough, because if you add too much flour, your bread will end up tasting kind of dry and tough. Also, don't knead it too much too. You want to be pretty gentle. It's not making like a pie dough here, pie crust. Because if we do too much kneading, it might also get too tough when you try and eat it later. All right, so it's pretty much all together in a piece, in one piece. There's a little bit of flour. It's still not mixed in. I like this dough. I say we let it sit now. And, oh, here's a trick for when your hands get really messy. You can go over the garbage bin and just rub your hands together and use more flour. Our oven is preheated. So use a little bit more flour to rub all of the dough off of your hands. If you do all that over the sink and try and just rinse it off when your hands are like this, you might clog your sink. So now we're going to take a damp cloth, so a dish towel or paper towel, get it a little bit wet and then squeeze it out. And we're going to cover our dough like that. It can be kind of loosely covered. And now we're going to put it and let it sit so that the dough can expand a little bit more. It can sit in a warm place, so we're going to put it over here by the window and let it sit about 20 minutes, more or less, it's fine, and we'll get to making these cinnamon rolls. So it's been about 25 minutes. Now we'll take the cloth off of our bowl, and you can see that the dough expanded a little bit while it sat. We call that letting the dough rise. And now, I hope you used that time to clean up the kitchen a little bit, because as they say, good cooks clean, right? But you can actually keep the flour on hand, because that will help you. Go ahead and take a little bit and coat our hands so that the dough doesn't get stuck to us as we make our rolls. So if you are cooking with a friend or a sibling, you can divide the dough in half, and then each of you can make your rolls. So basically you'll just pull a piece of this dough off, and then, I don't know, that looks like a roll, maybe it looks a little big. So again, flour is your friend. I'm gonna put some in like side of the bowl so that I can kind of scoop it on as I do this. So we're going to grab a piece, shape it into a ball, just kind of loosely, and then place it on your cookie sheet. So it doesn't matter if you like rolls that are a little smaller or a little bigger, that's totally fine. But I would recommend that your rolls are all around the same size as each other. So you can do all small or all big, or one tray of small rolls and one tray of big rolls, because smaller ones will take less time to bake, and you know, when they're done, you want to take them out so they don't burn. And then if you have bigger ones, they can stay in until they are done. Okay, so I've finished making the rolls. I have a tray of smaller ones here and a tray of slightly bigger ones here. So we'll stick them in the oven at 375, set a timer, and we'll start checking them after 10 minutes. It's been about 15 minutes. I'm going to check, because when I checked at 10 minutes, they were not done yet. And these look good. There's a little bit of coloring on top, and I'm going to let them sit for a few minutes and we'll try them. Okay, so we're gonna try one of these delicious looking rolls. As you can see, they look very moist and delicious on the inside. And again, you can kind of start to determine if you like them a little bit more done, a little bit less done. Delicious. The only thing it needs is some butter. So you can check out one of our other videos where Jonathan shows you how to make homemade butter. It's actually very easy and it's really delicious, especially on homemade bread. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.